Well, hey folks, how's it going today? Hope you're all doing really good. Welcome back to part 2 on how to refret a Stratocaster neck. So in part 1, I went over my methods on how I install the frets and all the prep work involved. And if you want to check that out, you can go in my playlist and feel free to check that video out as well. There's other fret job videos in there too. So these are glued in, and they've been sitting for about 24 hours here. And now we're going to cut the ends off. Now I don't trim these off until the next day. I let the glue dry and do its thing. If you're not gluing them in, then you can do it right then. The reason I don't clip them off right after I glue them is because sometimes, you know, you can actually pull these and lift them with your cutters. So I like to let the glue do its work and then trim them off. So let's get right to it. One more shot of coffee here. You gotta have a coffee when you're doing fret jobs. So I'm using just a set of side cutters here. Now you can use bull nips, end nippers. I recommend getting some flush cut nippers or side cutters or whatever you like to use. Now, when you clip these off, there's a few ways you can do it. You could clip them off like this, or you could do it in this direction. Now, no matter which cutters I use, I like to do it this way. As soon as you cut that off, too, make sure you get rid of that little end, because you don't want that laying on your bench under somebody's guitar or yours, or stepping on it on the floor if you have pets or anything like that. These are really sharp. They can do a lot of damage, so at least make sure you're picking them up or keeping track of where they're going. And that's just good practice. Now, they don't cut too hard. The reason that I like to trim them this way is because it leaves the tang intact. If I cut them this way, it's more of a tendency to lift it out of the slot. So that's just my method. I'm not saying it's right or wrong or gospel or anything like that. I'm just conveying the reasons why I like to do it this way. So, you know, it gets it pretty close. No matter what, you're going to file these anyway, so just try to get them as close as you can. Try not to move your pliers too much. You know, you want to kind of keep that everything, you know, kind of stable when you do it. Try not to move your pliers back and forth and wiggle. Just put it on there, get it up tight to the fretboard, and just make a nice easy cut. Boom, that's it. Really not much to it. So you're going to end up with some ends sticking out. Now with flush cutters, you could get it a little closer, but when I cut it this way, as you can kind of see, it's tapered like almost like the roof of a house that way. So there's not a lot to file. It's just that little bit of tang that's going to come off. So these will file down really quick. Okay, pick up your stuff. I mean, this isn't a race either. Take your time when you do this. It's not about speed or anything like that. Just make sure you get a nice cut and don't disturb the fret if you can help it. Now, as you get going, you'll get a little routine down and a little technique going. And you can just kind of move right along, like I said. I still take my time, make sure my pliers are up close to the wood and the edge of the fretboard as good as I can. It's just going to save you a lot more filing. The other thing is, it kind of keeps all these cuts symmetrical. So the first time you drag your file down the edge of it, you're not going to hit one that sticks out, you know, a lot further than the other one. So it's just my preferred method. Try to keep everything as symmetrical and even as you can. As you get down to the end, you really don't get much of a cutoff. They kind of get smaller as you go down there, but still, you want to nip them back as much as you can and try to keep that even. Okay, so now we're going to file these ends down. Now, there's a few ways to do this. Get yourself a couple nice mill files, nice flat files. I just use something with fine teeth. You can also use one of these too. This is like, I don't know, maybe a piece of acrylic or epoxy, and it's got some files embedded in it. One's on a 90, one's on an angle. So you can put angles on the edges of your frets too. Now I'm a little leery of that. I don't like a lot of angle on the fret because I like to keep as much you know, real estate here for the strings to ride on. I don't want them to drop off if the angle comes in too much, because it's going to shorten the top side of the fret here. So, like I said, now what these do, it just sits on the fret wire, okay? This is smooth, so what this does is just rides along on top of the fret wire and allows you to, you know, start your filing. You got to be really careful with these. These can jump up off there, and you can go across the tops of your frets. Be very careful if you're using one of these. Now, I'll use them sometimes just for the first couple swipes across there. This has kind of an aggressive file in it, so again, you got to be very careful. You really almost have to put a lot of pressure on the back of it so it kind of tips it up a little bit, and almost like it's doing a wheelie. Not that exaggerated, but that way it doesn't hang up on the frets. If you're pushing down, it's going to dig in. That's where you get into these problems with it jumping. Now, another thing you got to watch with this is the fact that this is a 90 degree right here, okay? Now, if you look at your fretboard, a lot of them will have a radius like this, okay? So that being said, when you set the file on here, okay, it can have a tendency, let's see if I can get this on film a little better. Okay, so you can see there's a gap in between the fretboard on each side, and you can really see the radius now. So if you have this riding like this on the radius, you can actually dig into the side of your fretboard with these. You really got to make sure that, you know, this is riding right in the center. So, you know, a lot of times, like I said, I just use this to get started, and then I'm going to shift over to just hand files. Okay, so oh boy, that really is hard to get started sometimes. That's why it's so important to keep your frets cut all in the same technique. You know, use the same technique when you do it, so that way you don't have one that really pokes out and hangs you up. Now, once I get that so I can go down through there smooth, I'm pretty good with it. And now I'm going to shift over to just some regular flat files here, okay? Okay, folks, here we go. I'm going to just take this mill file here. I'm going to try to keep this on a 90 for now until I get in closer. Now, as you do this, you can use this as a reference, okay? Look at that gap in between there, and you can see daylight. You know, once in a while, just stop, look at your file, see how close you are. So here we go, first pass. Just a real light stroke. Nice sharp file. And another thing, if you're worried about, this is your first time, you may want to tape this off, okay? So you don't scratch the finish on your guitar neck. This one's already got a lot of wear on it. The finish is pretty much all seasoned, and this is a relic guitar, so we're not too worried about it. But I'm still gonna be very careful about digging into the wood, because we don't want to do that. I've done this enough so I can kind of do that without taping everything off, but you know, if it's your first time, it's a good idea. If you're working on someone else's and you've only done this a couple times, again, I think it's a good idea to you know, tape stuff off and just take that extra precaution. Okay, well, more of the same. Okay, well, we're gaining. That's good. So I'll work on each side a little bit just to kind of even things out and spread the labor out a little bit. Okay, so oftentimes I will actually take the neck and tilt it a little bit, you know, kind of towards the light. Now, you probably can't see this, but I can still see the gap there. And it's just more kind of like ergonomically correct and more comfortable and less taxing on my hands to take a break sometimes and just switch over to this little technique and in this position. Now, again, you can tell this one's got a few burrs sticking out. Your file will drag on them and you'll feel them. But having it tilted like this, I can still see the gap in between the file and the fretboard. And that's what I do when I get close like this. Just to make sure that I'm not, you know, filing the wood down yet or anything like that. It's just a good reference. And it's easier to see it this way when it's tipped. Okay, so once you get the high ones down, now you can just, you know, kind of glide along here, make a nice even stroke every time. And it's also good to take your file, set it up there, and just look at these gaps, okay? See if it's a bigger gap, you know, in different places. Now I can see this fret and this one are kind of sticking out a little bit more. So it's good to try to even that stuff up right now. And I'll do this. I'll work on one little section. Sometimes, you know, you don't pay attention. You're doing more filing in one area than the other. And, you know, this will happen. It's not a big deal. Just take the extra time to try to level things back out. I'm going to check that again. It's starting to get pretty close here. Now, one thing to keep in mind, right now I have no bevels on here, as you can see, okay? They're just squared off. You know, I'll do that and get it in as close as I can, excuse me. I don't worry about the bevels much right now. I will take a crowning file and just kind of go over each edge, and that'll kind of round it a little bit and take some of the sharp off. Again, I like to have all the real estate that I can get on the fret. That way I don't have strings dropping off the fret wire, and again, that's why I don't put a lot of bevel on the edge of the fret as well. Okay, things are getting pretty close to the edge now. That's good. I also wanted to add to, if you're just, doing this for the first time, you may want to get a pair of gloves on. If you do make a wrong move or you slip, the ends of these are very sharp and they will cut you. So, if you're kind of clumsy with tools, and like I said, if you haven't really built up a lot of technique doing this yet, it's not a bad idea, really. Okay, so once I get everything flushed up here, what I'm going to do, I take a crown and file, okay? Now, these are brand new frets. We don't need to crown them. What I will do is just lightly go over the fret like that, just to knock that little bit of ding off there, okay? I don't know if you can kind of see that, but like I just touched that one right there. Now, it's not putting an angled bevel. It is putting a slight little bevel on there, but this is basically just to get that sharp off there, okay? Now, you can see, well, maybe you can't see, but this one I just did the end a little bit. The one beside it here has not been hit. So you can kind of see where it knocked that sharp corner off. All right, so that's one method. I mean, you can angle these too if you want to angle your file to put a bevel on them. That's fine. It will have a slight bevel on it when I'm done, because what I end up doing next is I'll take a file sometimes and I'll do the same motion. Now, this is just right on the edge of the fret wire. That's it. You can feel that file just kind of drag, and that's very light. Now you can see a little bit more pronounced bevel here on the end. That's enough. I mean, I don't have to go a ton more than that, but you don't want them so they're actually sticking out by or anything like that. Even if the tang is flush, sometimes the crown can still poke out, so it is good to put a little bit of a bevel on it, and, just to get that sharp edge off. Now, the next thing I will do is this. I'm going to take a fret dressing file here. This is a StewMac version. Now, what you have is a squared edge right here. This edge here is actually rounded and there's no teeth on it, which is called a safe edge. So with the safe edge, you can whip the end of your fret off without scarring up your fretboard. Now, if you're using the square edge actually gets this bottom point of the fret wire that's really sharp. So I just take one stroke, and this is kind of a compound motion how I do this. I'll try to demonstrate it. So not a ton of pressure. You should tape these off if you've never done this, because you can like scar things up with the flat side. And there is little teeth on there, so just be careful of that. Now what I'll do is start right on that corner, and that's the motion. I just want to get this kind of compound motion every time. Same thing, every fret, okay? Now you do both sides, so go down through, come back through, then flip it over and take the safe edge side. And that's when I concentrate on the upper part of the fret here, okay? So with the squared edge, you're concentrating on this little corner. With the safe edge, you're kind of concentrating on the upper side of the fret, right here, like from the corner to about, 3/4 of the way up the crown. And then we'll get kind of rounded off, okay? So that's really what you're going to be feeling on your hands when they're sharp. It'll usually be that bottom corner or the tang sticking out. So that's pretty much the process. Now, what I will do after I get them all cleaned up and everything, I'll get down through with a fret rocker. Let's see if I have one right here. I do. So, you know, after it's all said and done, I'll get down through with a fret rocker and just make sure they're seated properly and there's no high frets or anything like that. If there is, then you're going to either have to investigate, make sure they're all the way down. If they are, then you may have to level them. Even new frets, you have to do that sometimes. So that'll be the next phase of the job here. Like I said, I'll go down through. Once that's all done and I know they're level, the ends feel good, I'll just give them a good polish and should be good to go. Make sure your neck's straight when you do this too. No forward bow or back bow. You don't want to be fret rocking or doing any fret work unless your neck is straight. That's very important as well. Okay, so I'm going to dump out those awful little fret nibs that I cut off and get them off the bench. Also got some filings building up here on the cloth, so I'm going to dump that out too and keep everything clean here. And I'll just keep moving forward. Now this one looks really good already. It's coming out nice. I've filled some of the little chip out that was, you know, left from the first or second fret job where someone pulled them out and chipped a bunch of stuff out. It's looking better. I got a few more spots to address, but you really won't see it when I'm done, hopefully. And that's really my method, folks. It's not super intense or hard to learn. It's just really all about, you know, repetition, doing a lot of it, getting your techniques down for your filing, getting the proper files, ones that you feel comfortable using. And, you know, other than that, as long as they're level and the ends aren't poking out and you haven't filed the end of the fret off to, you know, a corner like a roof of a house, into, you know, within reason. You know, like I said, now I don't mind a little bit of angle, but I find some companies really put a pronounced angle on there, and I find it's harder to clean up the sharpness of it, first of all. And again, I just don't like to give up any real estate here on the top of the fret wire, just so we know the strings are going to have plenty of room. So if you bend them or you grab a cord hard, it's not going to drop off the fret wire. So that's pretty much it, folks. Other than that, you know, like I said, practice, practice, practice. Get yourself an old neck or an old guitar, and that's a good way to start. And, you know, once you do a few of them, you'll get the hang of it pretty quick. Some of you guys are going to probably nail it the first time. You may not, though. There's little things that you just got to keep in mind as you're doing it. You know, like I said, don't have your file angled too far. You know, things like that. Because if you shrink that playing field up too much, you're going to have to pull the frets out, or you're going to have to change your string spacing. You know, you don't want to run into that kind of thing. That's happened to me on one fret job I did, and it was just not paying attention, and I had the file angled a little too much, and I ended up refretting it again because I just didn't like the amount of real estate that was left, and the strings were really close to the edge of the frets. Well, hopefully this helps you guys out, folks. Like I said, I'm not an expert at this, but I've done quite a few of them, and, you know, don't make it any more complicated than you need to. Take your time. Make sure you got nice a nice file, the right file. And again, just keep looking at everything. Run your hand down through there lightly, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day, because that's what's going to be happening here. So that needs to feel good. And, you know, like I said, if you follow those steps, take your time, you should be successful. Well, thanks again for watching, folks. I really appreciate it. Again, go into my playlist. There's categories on this stuff: fret jobs, guitar repair, demos, amps, pedals. There's a lot of videos on there and hopefully a lot of useful information for you guys. Well, thanks again. We'll see you guys real soon. Be good. Okie doke. Okay, folks, I'm glad I caught you. Well, I'm just going to show you what the end results look like here. I still got a couple little chips to fix right there, and there's a couple more on another spot up here somewhere, but the frets come out nice. The fret ends look good. Everything's nice and smooth, just like it should be. No hang-ups. Now, as you can see, I had more stuff out here. Like I said, if you want to go through the playlists in my channel, go under fret jobs, and I go through all this stuff. What to get, how to use it, that kind of thing. So there it is. We're going to bolt this back on the Strat and get her set back up. Okay, now, thank you for watching. See you soon, folks.